I am excited to be speaking to an audience of, I imagine, predominantly single women, because mostly I'm speaking to couples. Mm-hmm. And you guys listening to this are incredibly fortunate because you're learning this information before things go wrong in your relationship. Most people come to me almost too late, having fallen in love, and the relationship starts, getting rocky. And then sometimes it's too late to do anything about it. I certainly wish myself I had discovered this stuff. So I'll just give you a quick background on who I am, how I came to be here, and then we'll dive into these 3 things you need to know before you commit in a long-term committed relationship. So I wasn't always a relationship expert. In fact, for a lot of my life, I guess I was a relationship disaster, in that most of my relationships ended the same way. And at some point, I woke up to a profound realization that the common denominator in all of my failed relationships was me. And I had to kind of tell the truth to myself that I had some growing to do. And that's what got me interested in learning about romantic relationships. And I started off reading books, and then I started discovering research papers, and I went deep. And then I started flying all over the world to learn at the feet of some of the authors I had studied. And I never really had an intention to be helping couples. I was just really curious and really wanted my next relationship to last. And eventually, after a couple of years of learning, and I'm the kind of guy that whenever I'm into something, all my friends know about it. I use them as I just teach to them. And after a couple of my friends came to me and said, Bruce, actually, you should really consider doing this professionally. You're really good at it. A seed was planted, and I went back to school twice, got qualified twice to work with couples, and somehow fell into the niche of helping couples in trouble. And perhaps it's the intensity of that work that's so rewarding. But whatever it was, that's what I ended up doing. And I started Love at First Fight, which is my company, loveatfirstfight.com. And I help over 300 or 400 couples every year to turn their marriages and relationships around. So I've been doing this for about 12 years now. So I've had a lot of data to gather patterns from. And so what I'm going to share with you today comes from having spoken with thousands upon thousands of people and seeing their patterns and the same mistakes being made over and over and over and over again. Relationships naturally evolve through 3 developmental stages. And I never knew this. I wish I had. And just like growing up from being a newborn to a toddler to a teenager to eventually, like my stepdaughter, a 19-year-old, almost 20-something going into the world, you go through levels, developmental levels, and you can't skip them. So you can't go from toddler to 20-something. You've got to go through teenager first. Our relationship also goes through stages that you cannot skip. Okay. And some of us may never get to the last or 3rd stage. Many of us stay stuck in the 2nd. So what is the first one? I bet you've all guessed it's the romance stage. It's that stage where you single people watching this are about to embark on when you meet somebody and you're going to fall in love. And it's the stage that happens when it's usually the relationship is anywhere between new and about 2 years old. It never lasts longer than 2 years. Most likely it'll last about 6 months max, but it can stretch out to 2 years. And it's this beautiful time where we're falling head over heels in love. Our brain is pumping out a cocktail of love drugs like oxytocin and serotonin and dopamine and vasopressin. And we're literally high on drugs during the romance stage, which is why it's so addictive and it's so fun. And it's a natural stage, and its purpose is to get us to connect, to bond together as a couple. And this is mostly done through the hormone oxytocin. And oxytocin is known as the cuddle hormone. It's that drug that gets the 2 of you feeling close and connected and falling in love. And in this stage, because we're high on drugs, we can only see our partner through these kind of rose-tinted glasses. We completely ignore all their bad side, right? All those red flags that people talk about, we don't see any of them because we're drugged, like we're high. And
Bruce, there's a
we only show.
There's a saying that says when you have on rose-colored glasses, all the flags just look like flags. So you can't see the color of the flag.
That's so good. Can I steal that? I love that.
Yeah.
So that's exactly it. And then, we only show them our good side and kind of hide all of our, flaws, and we keep those to ourselves. So we really are operating in the most immature form of love, just like being a toddler is kind of the most immature form of being human. We're like toddlers in our relationships in the romance stage. And we really can't see the other person objectively, and we don't show them our flaws. So we're not really being completely honest about who we are either. And I think Hollywood is led us to believe that this is love, where really this is not anywhere near close to love. This is infatuation. These are drugs. Neither of you are choosing each other. You're falling. It's almost like you're being forced into relationship by the drugs. It's like somebody shut you up in your arm and suddenly you're high and you can't help yourself but fall in love. So there's not a lot of choice going on here. But somewhere between 2 months and 2 years, the drugs wear off, which is kind of a bummer. And one day, we wake up and
it's so exciting and fun and what we all look forward to so much, right?
Yeah, and for a little while, we're desperately scrambling, trying to get them back, and we'll try to change our partner and manipulate and do whatever we need to do to get that damn high back. But eventually, one day we wake up and we look over at the person, lying next to us, and we're like, I don't know, man. I'm not sure I made the right choice here. Like you don't look as good as you used to, and where I thought you were Mr. or Mrs. Perfect, I'm not so sure anymore. And the glasses are kind of like whacked off our face, and suddenly we're faced with the reality of who the other person is, and so are they. They're looking at us thinking the same thing, going, geez, where I used to think you were so in touch with your emotions. Now I'm just seeing you're a drama queen. Or, where I used to think, you were so cool, calm, and collected, almost like James Bond. Now I can see you're emotionally shut down and like you're just completely detached from your feelings. And, you don't even know how to listen to mine. And suddenly the reality of who the other person is presents itself. And this is a shock. It's a wake-up call. And it's devastating. It's a real kind of fall from grace to some extent. And our partner falls off the pedestal we've put them on, as do we off their pedestal. And this is where conflict enters the relationship. I'm sure every single one of you is nodding your head in recognition as you think back to previous relationships which ended in the power struggle stage. So we go from the romance stage into the power struggle stage. And just as the romance stage had a purpose, which was to get us bonded together, the power struggle stage also has a purpose. And it's to get us separate again so that we don't lose each other in relationship and become this kind of codependent, brother, sister, cuddly, mushy mess that is unable to function independently. And it's the power struggle stage is necessary, as is the romance stage. It's important to be a couple, but it's also important to remain yourself and autonomous and independent in the relationship, because otherwise one day you'll wake up and feel like you've lost yourself. In fact, that's one of the most common complaints I hear from one partner in a couple that comes to me for marriage help or relationship help is I feel like I've lost myself in this relationship. And this process,
sorry to interrupt, that's one of the most common concerns that women express to me about getting into a partnership is they're afraid they're going to lose their autonomy, their independence, their identity, who they are by being in a partnership, especially for women that are a little bit more mature, which is who I tend to work with, who have worked really hard for that independence and autonomy and identity. So yeah, this comes up
exactly
a lot.
So what I have to say to that is that you will lose your independence and autonomy in a relationship for a little while in the romance stage. That's natural, that's normal, and that's okay. As long as you know what's going on, there has to be some form of surrendering myself in order to merge together as a couple. If you stay hyper independent, you will never create the couple bond. And so women who are very successful in their lives often struggle to create the bond because they're so terrified of losing their independence, exactly as you're saying. And so what I say is just let go, let it happen. And then in the power struggle stage is the natural time where you're going to have to separate, and it'll happen naturally. Now, you separate too much because then you lose the relationship. But if you don't separate enough, you stay kind of in this gushy, mooey codependence. And this process is called differentiation. That's what psychologists call it, differentiating from each other. And it's difficult because once you've fallen in love, it almost feels like an abandonment when your partner starts withdrawing from you and wanting to spend more time on their own or with their friends that they had way before they met you. Many people in my courses and in my one-on-one consulting say things like, I feel hurt. He wants to spend time alone with his friends and not with me. And I'm like, that's a good thing. Encourage it, because that's the power struggle stage. And the more you resist it, the more it will persist. The more you try and stop it from happening, the longer it will transition through the power struggle stage to the next stage of relationship.